Hi everyone, Brett from Practical Eco Living here. Just thought I'd give you a bit of an update on what we've sort of been up to recently. Bit of a quick recap. If you've sort of been following the blog at all, you probably know that at least I've grouped the main sort of areas that we can work on our environmental impact, our own sort of personal impact, into like household energy, transport, um, food, food we eat, and the stuff and waste we create. Um, Probably the easiest place to get started with is your sort of household energy. So that's where I'm really exploring at the moment. And at least here in Australia, according to what the government sort of shares, heating and cooling make up for about 40% of the electricity use of the average household. That's going to vary from state to state depending on various things, but yeah, it's a good place to start. So with that, I've gone exploring to see what the best way to find out how to make your home a little bit more energy efficient is. And to do that, I think it's good to be able to get a model of how your house is performing at the moment. Here in Australia, there's new houses have to be built to get a 6-star rating from the NatHERS sort of accreditation, which while still probably far from perfect, there's still it's a good start. It's probably a lot better than old homes. I'll sort of go through in a minute. New houses have to be at least 6 stars. Older houses like the one I live in, at least based on my calculations, are about lucky to be 2 stars. So there's a lot of room for improvement. Heating and cooling particularly. To do the NatHERS, there's a few different, or 3 accredited softwares that you can use, as you see on the screen here. Your Accurate, your BRS, and First Rate. Sure, I'm only fairly new to this, and don't have too much backward, sort of training as such in it, but all sort of self-taught. But the First Rate is freely available from the government website, the Victorian government website, as shown on your screen at the moment. And it's, at least from what I've seen, it's quite it's well supported. It's good manual to help you learn and work out how to use it. And best of all, it's free. If you want to get proper certificates or whatever, I think that costs a little bit, but it's still not a hell of a lot. So with that, I'll sort of jump in and give you a bit of a brief overview of sort of what I've done with this First Rate software as applied to our house here in Adelaide in Australia. Quick sort of overview is that, like I said earlier, new houses have to be 6 stars. At least theoretically they need to be a 6-star rating. Whether or not they actually in practice they are is another story. In Australia, it's just theoretically. So the house might not actually be built to the standard that it was designed, but that's another story. But our house that I'm going to have a bit of a look at today to give you a bit of a case study is an older house, probably from the 1950s, weatherboard, fairly flat roof, or very flat roof. It's have to say, a unique sort of house. Very some interesting architecture, sort of weird sort of ceilings and whatnot. Um, here in Australia, you get quite hot summers, and at least where we are, it's very treed to the north side of the house, which good in summer, not so good in winter though, because in winter you ideally would like to get a lot of the northern sun coming into the house and help warm up. And I'll sort of run through a few more details later on some of that, but yeah, I'll sort of start running through, I think, just a quick overview of how the first rate works, at least from how I've picked up, running through the manual that you grab, when you install the software. First thing, you basically start with, ideally you really need a PDF of your house plan, and from that you can start building up different zones, insulation, what sort of insulation, floor, roof, all those what sort of windows and all that sort of thing. As on the screen now, you can see basically the sort of plan view in first rate of our house. As I said, north points straight up the screen. Ideally, houses in the southern hemisphere in Australia here would face to the north, to allow in a lot of the winter sun when it's lower in the sky, and keep out the hot summer sun when it's higher in the sky. As you can see here, our house is sort of pointing sort of the opposite to how you probably ideally want it. So we get all of you got the morning easterly sun into some of the windows on the east side of the house, and then the hot westerly sun on the other side of the house. But yeah, setting up first rate, you pretty well go through and set up your zones. I won't go through in too much detail because you want to get into it. The manual could explain it. Explains it a lot better than I could ever do it. But yeah, you go through. You can see here I've got main living area here that I've marked out floor. Kitchen. I've got lounge, dining, kitchen, sort of one big zone, and then bedrooms, 3 bedrooms down at southern end here. Study, bathroom, laundry, entry, which first rate. I think it's a NatHERS system. Unconditioned rooms, which basically assume that you're not heating and cooling them. They're sort of separated. You're not not trying to keep them to a nice temperature. Yeah, so yeah, the main thing is getting your plan in. It's easy enough to copy and paste a PDF plan into the first rate. Make sure it's facing north. There's a scaling function. This one I've sort of pointed out here. Getting to scale, and then you start setting up your zones and working through. Yeah, and it's basically where main different zones where you can break up the house, and where basically how it changes, and then within that you can change where your floor types are different or where your ceiling types are different, so that you take into account any of those variations. Our place we've basically got wooden floorboards throughout, elevated floor, so there's floor space underneath, so pretty well throughout we've got elevated floors, carpets hanging in the bedrooms really, floating floorboards in a couple of rooms, but tiles, laundry, bathroom. Other than that, we've got a garage under sort of living space, so that's concrete slab sort of under there. yeah, but fairly straightforward. Ceiling space, pretty pretty flat, um, and we've sort of a year or so ago we got good insulation, which because of the low ceiling, required the ceiling to be the roof be ripped up. But yeah, it's definitely performing a lot better. So yeah, as well as telling out what sort of floors, like wooden or concrete or whatever else. You also say the coverings, the ceiling, what sort of ceiling, what you got in the roof, what sort of insulation. Um, yeah, and sort of the yeah, it's going through and pretty well filling out. It's a bit of an exploration on what is there. Older houses, it can be hard to find out, actually really get a good handle on what you do have, without really, you know, really digging in. Um, putting window, sort of assume the sort of windows we've got. We've got some double glaze sort of in some of these Western windows and doors. Most of the other ones are, timber single glazed. Um, we did have, we do have lots of downlights, and with the insulation, the ceiling insulation last year, sealed all those, so that sort of helped improve things. But um, yeah, sort of just basically run through, like, that's sort of our base case. Like I said, you see down here corner here, you know, get 1.9 stars, which to be honest is pretty ordinary. um, that based on how I set it up, I've got a best estimate. Like there's no wall insulation, which is a big issue. Really, it would help a hell of a lot if we did have wall insulation. Bit of a tip, if you want to know whether or not your house does have wall insulation, is to pull out power points, whatever wall sockets, have a look inside your wall. Did that in a few of the external walls here, and lo and behold, there's basically big air cavity, but yeah, nothing in there. So we've got weatherboard or fibro sort of exterior, but yeah, nothing insulating. So that's sort of definitely on the list of things that would make a big improvement. Yeah, so from this is that you get reports of basically what the what the different zones in the house are and how they're performing. And the key one for me is like seeing how much heating and cooling for the different areas. I've taken that and knocked up a bit of spreadsheet. As you can see here, that's taken the base plan just to see like where I am at the moment. The main areas studied. The combined lounge, dine, kitchen area, the hall, and then the 3 bedrooms. There's sort of the main areas, and see what effect different sort of improvements would have on the heating and cooling performance. It's in this spreadsheet I've started with the easiest, or probably the where you would common sense would say that you should start. So that the first thing is ceiling draughts. Fans, we've got number of ceiling fans, bathrooms, kitchens, those sorts of things. There's a lot of air lost through there. Heating flues, even around windows, ceiling around windows, doors, that sort of thing. The house is quite a leaky house, to be honest, and I think even like the base of the first rate does assume that it is to a reasonable level, but there's also room to make allowance for proper weatherproofing. So as you can see here, getting some of that done. Like downlights is a big area where you often do have drafts, and with our ceiling insulation last year, we did get all those downlights. I think you know, 19 odd downlights all sealed properly with insulation, so that's not an issue. But we've still got fans and windows, a lot of windows and doors that do need a bit of work. So as you can see here, that does, will make a 5% sort of improvement in the energy needed to heat the house, which, considering it's not really big dollars, probably a few $100, good place to start. The main sort of living, the 5% heating improvement sort of main sort of areas. Not so good, cooling doesn't really make that much difference, but, it's best, cheapest and easiest place to start is, sealing some of those drafts. Next place we've sort of been looking at, which we've, already put an order in, is for some shading on the western facing sort of, deck. You see out here, we've got a deck out to the western side of the house. Got a lot of the hot western suns, particularly when you get the hot days, mid 30s, 40s. A lot of heat coming into the house on the western side here. So we're, hopefully before the end of the year, we're getting some shading across these, couple of windows and doors on the western side here. So that's what I've, modelled here. In the modelling, I've just put it down as awning, but it's going to be probably a bit more coverage than just necessarily straight awnings. It doesn't, first glance, doesn't necessarily look awesome. Doesn't, of course, it doesn't make any difference to the heating requirement, but cooling, 4% improvement. Well, that's that's not bad. But you actually scroll down and have a look. Those two bedrooms, bedroom 1 and 2, on the western side, sorry, huge impact, huge improvement on these, the sort of comfort levels. It's not necessarily first rate works with how much energy it takes to keep it to a reasonable level, but really, we try to heat and cool at minimal levels, but it just shows that it'd be much easier to keep the house, or those rooms in particular, with the awnings to a reasonable, comfortable sort of level. So yeah, that looks quite good, and it sort of shows us that that's probably a good place to start to sort of keep at least the sleeping areas cooler, in some hot summer days. Next easiest, because we've got floorboards, got a bit of room under the house, it's basically all floorboards except for above the garage. Floor insulation is probably, it's pretty easy. You can self-install that. Shouldn't be huge dollars, 1,000, 2,000 probably at the most. Our house, because it is quite leaky and sort of lack of insulation, we do notice that it is probably it performs better in the summer months than the winter months. So if we can find something, get it to perform a bit better in the winter months, then that's good. So that's where floor insulation comes in. You see it's basically insulating, below all the floorboards throughout the house, for the 15% improvement in the heating requirement. So it's basically, apart from this little area here, the rest of the house, insulating under the floor of all the rest of the house. All up, the house is probably about 120, 130 square metres, so a pretty small house by modern standards. You'd be lucky to find a house built for under 200 squares here in Australia these days, probably more 250. So it's small, but works for us. So yeah, back to the spreadsheet, you can see, it's big, 15% improvement heating. That's should notice that for comparatively small outlay. So yeah, again, on the main sort of living areas, even into the bedrooms, sort of good improvement. Um, and then also sort of looked at above the concrete shed below the living area, and it's sort of insulating the sort of thermal mass, which even just that small area, only 20 odd square meters, um, shows quite a big improvement on the heating. So if you can do these two at the same time, they'll show quite a good improvement on the heating. Sort of basically so 20% improvement just by heating under the house, or insulating under the house. Yeah, mainly in the lounge dining areas. That's where the big areas, but it's definitely working from the easiest to, as you'll see, a bit trickier or more expensive sort of options. Yeah, and the next sort of one that looking at was wall insulation. As you can see on this spreadsheet, it makes a huge difference to both the heating and the cooling. It overall 51% improvement in energy usage, like much bigger on the heating, how much energy you need to heat, but still massive on the cooling. So that's definitely something that would be good to do. Not cheap, not cheap though. Well, that's something we definitely going to be exploring further, because just the huge improvement. Because at the moment, at least from what I've had I've sort of discovered, there's bugger all insulation in our walls. So if we can get something in there, you just see that across the board it makes a massive difference to the heating and cooling requirements of our house. It just smashes it, particularly the heating requirement. So yeah, if we could do that, that'd be awesome. Whether or not it's practical is labour intensive, really tricky, but the return on the investment, I'll be surprised if it's not reasonable return. It might take a few years, but that's definitely something I'm going to be looking into further. Yeah, and then beyond that, that's probably one of the more expensive options. But then we've got double glazing, the lounge windows, which is sort of back here you can see the lounge area here, north facing window up here, and a sort of westerly facing window. Yeah, seeing what the effect of glazing those windows there, and also had a look at this study window here, which faces to the north. Again, no, good double glazing is not necessarily, especially retrofits, not cheap, but big impact. The lounge, both heating and cooling, but definitely see more benefit. Keep the place cool, but whether or not that's due to what I've already built into the model earlier on, but it's definitely helping drive it down. So yeah, that's see how the money goes, but that's definitely way to go down the track, at least for our place. And sort of gone having a look beyond that, because again they're not cheap, but probably worth the effort. If we can get it happening. Beyond that, it's assuming that we've done the insulated all the walls, external walls only. That's what I got to mention, is that wall insulation earlier. It was just external walls. So next step, because we've got these 3 rooms, laundry, bathroom, and entry, that are what you call non-conditioned, you don't basically heat them or cool them. If we can insulate those rooms from the main conditioned areas, like where we do heat and cool, that also has a big impact. So we're basically insulating those walls where they face onto the other areas. And you can see here that that again makes a pretty big difference on both. It's pretty even heating and cooling. It makes a pretty big difference. So even up to there, it'd be quite a few dollars, but we've taken the house from a 1.9 star sort of rating up to a 5.6 star rating, which is pretty good. Still not a 6 star, but it's definitely getting up there. We'll notice the comfort levels and the decrease in how much we actually need to pay for electricity to heat and cool the place. So yeah, it's definitely heading in the right direction. They're the main sort of improvements that would would make the house a bit more livable, a bit easier, to use less energy and help basically, make it a little bit to, save the environment by not using so much power. These last sort of few I've got down here, these last, half dozen, there's sort of a few more options that, as you can see, they're not huge impacts, but they're still chipping away. Next one here, I've got awnings over these lounge windows. Try and keep out that sun. They do make, does make a bit of a, reduction, sort of in your, mainly, how much you need to cool, particularly in the lounge dine area. Whether or not that, the model actually correlates with reality, I'm not quite sure, because in first rate, you can't, well, whether or not credited or not, but you don't model vegetation, trees and the like, and we do have a lot of trees, out to the north here that do provide a fair bit of shade on those, particularly this northern window, but also to the sort of more westerly one. So the value of awnings on there, I don't think that there would be value there, but it's probably something worth looking at, particularly if we do, trim these trees to let in more winter light, and whether or not you want to do something about the summer heat coming in then. But yeah, it's definitely down the list of priorities. So yeah, you can see that at least from the modelling, makes a bit of a difference. Same sort of thing with the awning in the study. Like, considering it's only awning over one room, it makes 5% reduction in your cooling, cooling energy needed. Huge amount for just that one room, 38% to the study in particular. But again, the study, we have got probably not as much as for the lounge, but we do have some shading out front here, particularly deciduous tree. We've sort of got a deciduous tree out front here that shades a little bit in the summer months. A bit more sort of over to the west out this way. So again, not sure if the value is truly there, as the modelling has suggested. And then we've got, beyond that, the real benefits do drop off. Got double glazing the kitchen window, really. I think because even though it's east facing, gets a lot of the sun. It is mainly the morning sun, and so the benefit there is there is a benefit, but it's not particularly big. So if we really want to keep improving that, and that might be something we can do, look at, but it's probably not a huge benefit. Likewise, kitchen awning, bit of a benefit there, but again, not huge. It is more. It's not so shaded by trees out this way. Still a bit of shade by a few trees, but whether or not there is benefit there, particularly sort of getting out to some of these ones, and and then again, double glazing some of the other windows that we haven't double glazed. the bedroom down to the south. You know, double glazing down here, yeah, doesn't really make that much difference to the performance of the house. So yeah, just recapping that, yeah, the main thing is that we're at least looking at is sealing all the drafts, make sure we don't get hot and cold air coming in from outside, sort of, or losing the hot cold air that we're sort of pumping into the house. Yeah, shading some of this hot western sun in summer. Yeah, insulating under the floor to keep in the winter, the heat in winter, because it's, yeah, floorboards, you lose a lot, you know, and even insulation helps sort of seal between, you know, seal any little nooks and crannies that might, you know, gaps between the boards. So we'll see how that works. Yeah, and the wall insulation is like the big one that definitely, you know, see if the dollars stack up, but you know, it's a huge impact. So yeah, I thought give you a quick rundown, and hopefully, you know, that gives you a few ideas, at least something that might work in your house. Like I said, this NatHERS and, well, the first rate software in particular is just limited to, you know, it's specific to Australian sort of area. Um, you know, I'll be curious to learn if there is something similar, at least particularly freely available for other parts of the world, countries around the world. But you know, at least gives you a good start, and something to think about. So yeah, um, that's it for now. But yeah, stay in touch, and I'll let you know how things go and any, you know, further things I explore down the track. So thanks for listening, and that's it for now. Cheers.